On 30th October 2023, Apple wasted 30 minutes of my life. And probably yours. In this event, they said,
Not a fan of the Galaxy.
cheeky Apple. So who should buy the new M3 MacBook Pros? Probably not you or you. Alright, all those Apple fanboys will now come up with super benchmarks and oh, look at the single core and look at the multi-core. Do you really need that power? I mean, if you're already on an M1 MacBook Pro or an M1 Max, an M2 Max, then you're probably just fine. If you look at the graphs very carefully, the fancy graphs that Apple shows, you'll actually see a 20% increase, 15% increase, probably a 30% increase in a few cases. That's bound to happen, otherwise they don't need new chips. What's more important is, if you still get the M1 chips or the M2 chips in the MacBook Pros for cheaper, buy them. This is because the M1 chips and the M2 chips can still run rings around most Windows laptops, particularly when it comes to editing. Even when they are not plugged in, they actually destroy the Windows laptops. And what's the absolute new thing you get in the M3 MacBook Pros? A little brighter screen. I mean, a full 100 nits brighter. Thank you, Apple. Thank you. Apple, this is an opportunity missed. I mean, you could have given like a 144 Hz display, some new ports. You know what? I'm still using a dongle for that USB-A. And just when I was thinking all of this, Apple turns around and says, oh, let me give you a new color. How exciting. And I'll tell you why Apple does that. See, if you already have an M1 Mac or an M2 Mac, a Pro, non-Pro, and you're thinking of upgrading, and probably you think, oh, I don't need it. You know what? When you look at the new color, you really think, I need it. That's Apple's strategy, and it sucks you in. So the big question is, who should buy the M3 Max? Well, if you're a gamer, Apple turned around and said, I make you a deal you cannot refuse. What Apple makes is what I believe are GPU gods in those chips. Now, they really pack a lot of power, and I'm a little surprised till today that why Apple was never the first choice of gamers. It's probably because the gaming companies don't develop it well for Apple. Burn! But now, with this new GPU which is handled really well, what Apple has done is added things like ray tracing, etc. Now what that does is plays with shadows and lights and changes in lighting like in real life, and it makes those arcade games look wow. Gamers, probably this is a time to get on the Apple bandwagon. Who else should buy it? Anybody who was using an Intel Mac. In fact, if you were using an Intel Mac and you were getting by, any M1 chip in any configuration will get you wet. If you're getting a cheaper deal, go there. And finally, the one more thing, Apple introduced the iMac with the M1 chip a full 2.5 years ago, and in 2.5 years, they did nothing. Tim, you need to fire a few people. But all those lovely colors, which are now unchanged, are useless because they're on the back side and you never get to see them. So no new ports in that, no better screen. I mean, it's already quite good. All that chassis is wasted with very little power. Probably because Apple wants you to buy the Mac Studio. That's more expensive. Well, in conclusion, the reality of the M3 MacBook Pros is this.